Shadow. Whispers.
The haunting on Route 66. Mike Reynolds had been a trucker for more than 20 years. He liked to call the road his second home, though in truth, it had long since replaced his first. His ex-wife used to say he belonged more to the highways than to her. And maybe she was right. After the divorce, after the years of sleepless nights behind the wheel, the endless cups of coffee, and the nicotine-stained steering wheel, Mike had become part of the asphalt. His veins pumped diesel. His heart beat to the rhythm of white lane lines flicking by in his headlights. That November night, he was running late. A shipment of industrial parts needed to cross Arizona before sunrise, and dispatch had made it clear: deliver or don't bother coming back. Mike wasn't scared of losing his job. He'd been threatened before, but the route they gave him made his stomach churn. Route 66. It wasn't the usual interstate, clean and busy with fellow truckers to keep him company on the CB radio. No, this was an old stretch, abandoned decades ago, when newer freeways were built. He'd driven it once before, years ago, and swore he'd never do it again. Something about the way the road seemed to go on forever, the silence pressing in on all sides, and the strange stories old drivers whispered at truck stops about headlights that followed you 4 miles, or hitchhikers that vanished when you picked them up. But money was money. By midnight, the desert had swallowed the horizon. The moon was gone, clouds hid the stars, and the only light came from his headlights cutting a pale tunnel through the dark. His CB was quiet. His phone had no signal. The air inside the cab was stale, the heater rattling. It pushed warm air against the cold creeping through the glass. He tried the radio for company, but it only spat broken voices, fragments of songs from stations that didn't exist anymore. He turned it off. Silence weighed heavier. The miles dragged. At first, it was the usual loneliness, the kind Mike had felt countless times before, but then he saw them headlights. Far behind, just a pair of dull yellow beams, maybe half a mile back. He didn't think much of it. Another traveler, maybe a late-night car speeding through the desert like him. But after 20 minutes, those headlights never got closer. Never faded either. Mike tapped his steering wheel, frowning. He slowed a little, expecting the car to pass. Nothing. He sped up to 80. Still there, exactly the same distance behind. He felt a prickle at the back of his neck. He finally pulled into a rest stop, or what used to be an abandoned gas station. Its windows shattered, graffiti smeared across the walls, rusted pumps standing like tombstones in the dirt. He eased his 18-wheeler onto the cracked asphalt, leaned forward, and checked his mirrors. The headlights blinked out, gone. He stared for a full minute, waiting for the car to crest the hill. Nothing, no engine, no light, no dust, just the desert, empty and endless. Mike muttered, probably turned off, but his voice shook. He killed the engine, stepped out, and lit a cigarette. The cold bit his skin, the desert air dry as bone. That's when he noticed her. At the edge of the lot, near the broken fence, a figure stood, a woman. She wore a pale dress that fluttered in the wind, though he couldn't feel any breeze. She was barefoot, her hair long and tangled, head tilted like her neck couldn't support it. Her eyes glowed faintly in his truck's parking lights, reflecting them like an animal's. She raised one arm, slowly, shakily, and pointed straight at him. Mike dropped the cigarette, its ember hissing out on the dirt. His pulse slammed in his ears. He stumbled back into the cab, slammed the door, and fired the engine. Gravel sprayed as he tore back onto the highway, tires squealing. He didn't look back. Not until he felt it. A presence. Cold air filled the cab, smelling of damp earth. His breath misted. In the rearview mirror, he saw her, sitting in the passenger seat, pale face turned toward him, eyes hollow, lips moving silently.
Mike.
He jerked the wheel, swerving onto the shoulder before correcting himself. He whipped his head to the side empty seat. Nothing there. His chest heaved. He told himself he was tired, hallucinating, maybe. But then he noticed the mile marker he passed, 213. 10 minutes later another marker, 213. Again, 213. His stomach dropped. It wasn't possible. He had been driving for at least 40 miles. Every marker said the same number, like the road was looping him, trapping him in an endless stretch. His hands gripped the wheel until his knuckles whitened. He turned on the radio again, desperate for any noise. He froze. The voices weren't songs. They weren't stations. They were whispers, hundreds of them, layering over one another, moaning, calling his name. Mike, Mike. He shut the radio off and screamed into the empty cab. Shut up. Leave me the hell alone. Silence returned. But when he glanced at the passenger seat, his heart stopped. It wasn't empty anymore. This time, there was a man sitting there. His skin was grey, sunken, his clothes torn like he'd been in a wreck. His head lolled to one side, neck bent at a grotesque angle, and he was smiling. Mike slammed the brakes. The truck screeched, shaking violently. By the time it stopped, the seat was empty again. Sweat drenched his shirt. He couldn't breathe. He stumbled out of the cab, boots crunching on gravel. The desert stretched in every direction, silent, lifeless. He looked up at the stars except there were none. Just black sky pressing down, endless and suffocating. That's when he heard it. His blood ran cold. He spun around, searching, but there was no one. The laughter came again, closer this time, followed by the sound of bare feet pattering on asphalt. Shapes emerged in the glow of his taillights, figures, dozens of them, men, women, children, all dressed in torn, blood-stained clothes. Some had hollow eyes. Some had no faces at all. Just smooth skin stretched over where features should be. Their movements were jerky, wrong, as though they weren't walking, but being pulled forward by invisible strings. And in the middle of them the woman, the same woman in the pale dress, her arms still raised, finger pointing at him. Mike staggered back, whispering, No, this ain't real. The whispers grew louder. He turned, yanking on the cab door, but it wouldn't budge. He pulled until his muscles screamed, until his palms bled from the metal. Behind him, the figures drew closer, their mouths opening wide in a silent scream, rows of black teeth glistening in the taillight glow. Finally, he looked through the window and froze. Because he was already inside. Sitting in the driver's seat, his own body, his own face, eyes hollow, skin pale, hands gripping the wheel. The reflection smirked at him. The truck roared to life on its own. The headlights flared, bathing the road in blinding light. The door unlocked with a soft click. Before Mike could react, something shoved him hard. He tumbled into the seat, into himself, and everything went black. When he opened his eyes again, he was driving. The wheel was in his hands. The road stretched endlessly ahead. The mile marker read 213. Again, he screamed, but no sound left his throat. His body wouldn't listen. His hands gripped the wheel, frozen in place. His foot pressed the pedal. The truck kept moving. In the mirrors, the pale figures marched behind, keeping pace no matter how fast the truck went. The woman sat in the passenger seat now, smiling faintly, whispering in a language he couldn't understand. Mike realized then that he was no longer a driver. He was cargo, and Route 66 had claimed another soul. The truck's headlights carved through the eternal dark, engine roaring into the void, carrying Mike Reynolds down a road with no end, no dawn, no escape. And if you ever find yourself driving that forgotten stretch of Route 66, late at night, look carefully in your mirrors. If you see headlights that never fade, if your radio whispers your name, do not stop, because Mike is still out there, driving forever.
Shadow. Whispers. See you next time.